Good evening, guys. I'm just deciding to go live for 10-15 minutes after this fight, just to get some post-fight reaction. I'm just going to bear with me for 1 second. I'm just going to put the tweets out on social media. Bear with me a second whilst we get up and running here. Right. Evening all. Hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, basically I did my post-fight video. Post-fight videos now up on the channel. So anyone who's interested, please take the time after this to go and give that a look. And I thought, right, I'll sign off for the night. I'll go to bed. It's midnight here in the UK. But realistically, too much adrenaline running through the body after that fight. My throat's a bit croaky. I was doing a lot of shouting at the screen, a lot of screaming. So I just thought I'd jump online quickly. I'm not intending this to be a long show, just preparing. Maybe we'll chat for 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so. And just thought we'd use this as an opportunity to have a bit of back and forth with some of the people in the live chat, so we can get the opinions of some of the viewers live on the channel. I'll probably wake myself up tomorrow morning. Got a busy day tomorrow, but probably wake myself up half an hour earlier and do a more extended analysis video in the morning. But yeah, just really wanted to go live now, largely because, as I say, a bit restless, a bit too much adrenaline. And yeah, thought we'd see what some people in the chat are saying. So I can see we're joined by 80 people already. If you're one of them 80, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, so you can check out my other stuff. Hit the subscribe button. If you're a regular viewer, regular subscriber, thanks for joining. Do take the time to hit the thumbs up button to give this a bit more visibility so we can get some more people joining. But yeah, what a fight. Properly drained after watching that, and it really was a fight that had a bit of everything in it for me, really. It really had all sorts of angles and all action in it. So yeah, really real night to savor, and I'm glad that the fight lived up to it, because it was a huge night in British boxing, and had it been a really dull fight or a dull night, it wouldn't have been good. So joined by the Wizard, Ruman, Archie Balls, Team Groves, YouTube, Red Diesel, I'm Vox, Modern Broadcast, Peter, Archie, Incredible, Lewis, Dean, Graham, King Arthur, Kyle, Nathan, TTPP, Nico, E. Frandy, Ricky, Brother, Team Groves, Lewis, Nathan and Adam. So good evening, everyone. Boxing Barry's joined, Craig's joined, etc. So yeah, thanks to everyone for joining. And first and foremost, I've got a question for you guys who are watching, because there's 115 watching. Now, there's an ugly element of this fight that we've got to discuss. And do you know what? The second the fight ended, I pressed pause on my Sky remote, and I recorded my post-fight video. So I didn't actually mention this element of the fight in my post-fight video, because at the time I wasn't aware of it. It only became clear after I uploaded that video and pressed play on the Sky remote. And it's probably a good thing that I didn't discuss this element of the fight in the post-fight video, because I don't want to take anything away from Anthony Joshua. He was a deserved winner. And that was really a video to applaud the fight and applaud Joshua, as opposed to talking about, any negatives that were associated with the fight. But what I do want to talk about in this one is the scoring. And the scoring is not Anthony Joshua's fault. The scoring is the fault of the 3 judges who were ringside. But this scoring is scandalous. We as a nation are in big trouble now from a boxing perspective. We've had the Terry Flanagan fight. We've had the Gavin McDonald fight. The various Jamie McDonald fights, the various Ricky Burns fights. We've had ludicrous scoring. Martin Murray, Rosado only last week, 119 to 109. Crazy scoring. And tonight, there's been not one but 2 scorecards that were, ludicrous. Scott Quigg versus Simeon. Am I right in thinking 117 to 111? They scored it in favour of Scott Quigg. Can someone in the chat comment and confirm whether I've got that right? Did they have it 117 to 111? If you are watching live, could you also comment? Because I know the Joshua Klitschko scorecards, I know they had Joshua ahead, but could you just comment and remind me what the 3 scorecards were at the time of the stoppage? Because going into that 10th round, I had Vlad ahead, and I had Vlad ahead substantially. So 2 of the judges did have Scott Quigg winning 117 and 111, and the other had Scott Quigg winning by 115, 113. Let's just wait. So the 117, 111, 117, 111, and 115, 113 for Quigg. And if you are watching live, give me your thoughts on that, because I thought that was way off. Way off. Okay, so the AJ fight, obviously it was stopped in the 11th, so they only scored 10 rounds. 2 judges had it to Anthony Joshua. One of them had it 96-93. One of them had it 95-93. And one of them had it 95-93 to Klitschko. Now, there's no doubt that AJ was well in this fight. I'm not saying that at the time of the stoppage, AJ was out of it. But I think the Sky commentary team had Klitschko up. And I know some of the international commentary teams, the German team, the American team, had him up 2 or 3 rounds. And I kind of thought Vlad was up probably 2 rounds. But, to have Joshua up 96-93 and 95-93, to be honest, it's frightening. I mean, I know both guys had a 10-8 round. But after the 10-8 round for Klitschko, I mean, weren't they, maybe I've got this wrong. You guys in the chat will tell me. Weren't the rounds following that just very simple Klitschko rounds? Weren't Klitschko just, absolutely dominating those rounds, whereas as Joshua was sort of, becoming very low volume? I mean, I guess you could make an argument it was even. I personally felt Klitschko was ahead. But to have Joshua ahead by that margin is actually frightening for me, especially after the Quigg scorecards earlier on in the night. It was a very strange setup. Very strange setup. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to speak about the rematch clause in just a second. But I'll tell you what, let me go to the chat just quickly. Could you guys let me know how you scored it after 10 rounds? And I'll try and read as many of them out on the channel as possible, so I can try and get some consensus here. Because, I had a mate round, I was watching it, we were chatting, we were having a drink. I didn't expect it to go to scorecard. So I wasn't scoring these fights with a pen and paper, etc. But really, I thought it was, YouTube had Klitschko ahead by 3. Paul had it even. Frandy had Klitschko by 2. Lewis had Klitschko up by at least 2. Toby, Klitschko by 2. I am Vox, Klitschko by 3. Team Goes, Klitschko by 3. Sade, Klitschko up by 2. Danny, Klitschko up by 2. Wizard, Klitschko by 1. Sorry, I've lost my place in the chat. Bear with me for 1 second. James had Klitschko clearly ahead. Sam, Klitschko by 2. Peter had AJ up by 1. Lewis had AJ up by 2. Mikey even. Added AJ 2 for Joshua. Golden Fist 2 for Vlad. Craig had Vlad. John had Vlad up by 2. Sorry, I've lost my place again. Bear with me for a second, guys. Mus had Clit by 3. Cameron, Klitschko by 2. Andy, Klitschko by 2. Mark, Klitschko by 1 or 2. Ryan, Klitschko by 2. Brandon, 2. Klitschko by 3. Boxing Barry, Klitschko by 1. Dan, I don't think we should have sour grapes. I had Wladimir up, but AJ TKO'd him. This isn't sour grapes about the victory. AJ was the deserved winner. This is more of a comment on British boxing as opposed to a comment on AJ. The scorecards have nothing to do with credit to or against AJ. I've given it, AJ very much deserved to win this fight. Very much deserved to win this fight. This comment is not about who won the fight. It's about a separate issue for me, which is a deep issue at the heart of British boxing right now. Reese had it even. Modern Broadcast, Klitschko by 2. Craig by 2. Mitchell had Klitschko by 2. Samuel, Klitschko by 2. David, Klitschko by 1. Klitschko by 3. PO, Klitschko by 3. Brother B, Klitschko by 2. Level, Klitschko big. Jet had Vlad by 1. Jack had Vlad by 1. Danny, Vlad by 2. Craig, Vlad by 2. There you go. Look, clearly it's a subjective fight. It's a subjective fight. People have it different ways. The vast majority of people, there's 240 of you guys watching. If you're one of them 240, please hit subscribe and please hit like. Please hit the thumbs up. But yeah, it's a subjective fight. There's people in there who've gone Joshua. There's people in there who've gone even. I didn't see anyone who'd given it Joshua by 3 like one of the judges had, but there you go. Now, to have Klitschko down on 2 of the 3 scorecards is frankly bizarre. And if Klitschko had gone on to win that 11th and 12th round, it would have actually ended up a draw, wouldn't it? I mean, one of the judges would have still had Joshua 1 up based on the 96-93. Would have had it an absolute draw. And one of them would have had Klitschko up, even if he'd won the last 2. So for me, it's a frightening scorecard. The fact that if Vlad had won the 11th and 12th rounds, it would have been a draw. I mean, this really is bad, and I think the Quigg scoring was every bit as bad. I'm not saying Quigg necessarily deserved to lose that fight. I didn't score it with a pen and paper, so I'm not saying I analysed it technically, but my impression was that was a really close fight. For Quigg to have won it by 6 rounds or so, I think was crazy. Moto Edit says don't leave it to the judges is the way to do it. Fair play to AJ. Absolutely. But that's a separate conversation. Fair play to AJ is a very, very valid point, and it's a point we've covered on the post-fight. But I do think we need to discuss the scoring because, regardless of whether it was AJ, Vlad, or any 2 fighters, British boxing is getting to a crazy point now. If you look at these scorecards that have rolled in routinely, it's actually quite frightening for me. Let's talk about the rematch clause. So I wasn't actually aware in the lead up to the fight that there was a rematch clause. So, can you guys in the chat let me know, was that something that was common knowledge prior to the fight? It did seem to be from the conversations afterwards, the post-fight interviews. there was, it did seem to be that Wladimir was indicating that contractually there was something like a rematch clause. Sade said he wasn't aware of one. Craig said he was surprised when Blad brought it up. Sam says it wasn't common knowledge. So very, very interesting that is the case. Now, I wonder what's going to happen with Anthony Joshua here, because he's got the WBA and the IBF. And my understanding is he has to have an immediate mandatory for, I believe it's the IBF with Kubrat Pulev. And then I believe he's got a WBA mandatory as well with Luis Ortiz. So it's actually a not dissimilar situation to what happened to Tyson Fury when Tyson Fury beat Wladimir Klitschko. So if you recall back to that fight, Tyson Fury had a rematch clause with Wladimir Klitschko. Fury had to take the fight with Wladimir contractually. So I believe it was the IBF who stripped Tyson Fury immediately and allowed him, made Charles Martin fight Glasgow for the open belt because they said that Fury had to fight his mandatory. So it will be interesting to see if it is the case that Wladimir has an immediate rematch clause and he chooses to exercise that. It will be interesting to see what happens, whether, governing bodies like the IBF and the WBA strip Anthony Joshua. Now, personally, I wouldn't want them to, because for me, it would be a disappointment to boxing if Joshua was stripped and someone like Kubrat Pulev got to fight some nobody for a vacant title. I think that would be bad for the sport. As for Wladimir Klitschko, he's 41 years old. He's had a hard fight there. He's made a huge amount of money. If I were him, I'd be seriously questioning whether I actually want a rematch. Having said that, he's going to be full of regret, isn't he? He's going to look back at that 6th round and he's going to, reflect on what could have been. When he looks back at that 6th round and when he watches it on tape, he will realise that Joshua was in a good bit of trouble there, and he will have fancied his chances to have stopped him in that round. So Vlad will be very, very disappointed. I presume he will view that as a missed opportunity, a chance to pull the trigger, which he didn't take. And I think that is the one thing that will make Vlad even more inclined to maybe take this rematch, is, quite simply that he may view it as if he were to get Joshua in that position again, he'd back himself to get the stoppage. So, whether that rematch clause or not will happen, that's anyone's guess. Your guess is as good as mine. But I could see it going either way. I could see Vlad and Vitaly sitting down and, saying enough is enough. In 40s now, made a load of money, retire when you've got your health. I could also see Vlad, being gutted that he didn't stop Joshua and thinking that he's the better man and wanting to take that rematch clause pretty instantaneously. So interesting stuff. So yeah, let's go into the chat for a bit. If you want your comment to be read out, there's far too many comments here to read them all out, I'm afraid. So if you want your comment to be read out, put #BG after your comment, so I know that you want it read out, and I'll try and get as much out as possible. As I say, not intending to necessarily be online all night with this one, just a sort of quick reflections. But there you go. I do think Joshua's probably, definitely. I think Joshua's the #1 heavyweight in the world after that. I think that's the strongest piece of form currently active in heavyweight boxing. And there you go. Simon Peters, Wilder versus Joshua, who wins? I'd always make Joshua a favourite for that fight. I think Joshua's boxing is superior to Wilder's, but it's a fight that could go either way. Hassan says Joshua versus Parker, who wins? Again, I'll make Joshua a favourite in that, due to really Parker being quite defensively open. Sam says, Tom, how good do you think Wladimir Klitschko was tonight in comparison to his last 5 fights. Yeah, I think it was what I expected from Wladimir. I think that was a good performance from Wladimir Klitschko. You know, that's what Klitschko brings to the table. That's his attribute. So yeah, I give him a lot of credit for that. Mark says that Wladimir would have destroyed and embarrassed Wilder. Danny says, who's AJ's most dangerous opponent after this? Very possibly Tyson Fury if he gets himself back into shape, Danny, just purely because of the styles. You know, styles make fights. Sage says, who do you think AJ should fight next? Well, as I say, I think it's either the rematch or those mandatories, to be honest. Eve Randy, were you worried about AJ's stamina and speed with regard to his height and the size of his muscles? Yeah, I was. And when he appeared to gas in the 5th and 6th round, I suspected that was due to his weight and the muscles. He, in a way, was, you know, Wladimir allowed the fight to be lower paced than he should have at that point. Wladimir looked tired himself. It was obviously a hard fought battle. But yeah, I do think the muscles and, you know, the size were part of that problem for why he was low stamina. Paul, I think Joshua beats Price. Code Zero says far too much muscle on Joshua. Jet says about Bellew versus Parker. No, I think that could very well happen, Jet. Very well happen. Just having a look. Jared says, did Joshua answer critics regarding chin and heart? 100%. 100%, Jared. So a lot of chin in there. He took some hellacious shots from Klitschko and stayed on his feet and kept going. Up to nearly 300 people live. So shout out to everyone who's joined live, guys. If you are with us, hit the thumbs up button and press subscribe if you're new. Cameron said, do you think Vlad should retire? Would Shannon Briggs be a good fight? Absolutely not. Shannon Briggs would not be a good fight. He's nowhere near the top. You know, these are the 2 top heavyweights active in the sport for me. Should Vlad retire? If I was him, I'd retire. He's made all the money in the world. He's 41. He's still got his health. He's still got his intelligence. Retire when you're healthy. But he'll rue that missed opportunity in the 6th round and fancy himself to do it again. Simple Boy, they score the last round? No, they don't. No, because of that. The ref, you know, you only score rounds at the end. So, no, that last round wasn't scored. The scorecards are based on the first 10 rounds. So you've got to factor in the scoring minus the 3 knockdowns that Joshua scored in that 11. And Max says AJ must lose 10 pounds. Iron Vox is picking Ortiz to beat AJ. Sam wants Wilder v Parker. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on the chat here, guys. Let's have a look. Team Grove says, did both guys' game plans surprise you? Personally, predicted it wrong and thought Vlad would be on the back foot. I thought Vlad did a mixture of back foot and front foot. No, to be honest, they both did kind of what I expected. What surprised me is that Joshua ate more punches than I expected him to on his chin. You know, I thought some of the punches Joshua took, I thought would have stopped him. So credit to him for that. I did think stylistically, Joshua struggled to find his range when he was standing on the outside. And I thought Vlad was able to close him down at times on the inside. I thought Joshua was really most effective when he was able to get in that 3/4 range and kind of throw punches in bunches and, you know, in a sort of brawly type fashion. I thought Vlad had the advantage in terms of technical boxing and Joshua had the advantage in terms of putting punches together and moving into range. John Gover says AJ now has a knockdown on his record. That is true. VK Dean says Vlad should avenge Fury, then retire. Moto Edit says Fury versus Joshua at Wembley. Got the Lineal Ring magazine. Who you got, BJ? Well, it depends what sort of Tyson Fury comes back, doesn't it? You know, Fury is in ridiculously bad shape right now. He's been massively inactive. He's got all sorts of health problems. So it's hard to even seriously talk about that fight until we see a different Tyson Fury getting back in the ring, having sensible comeback opponents and looking good. Ziad says, how good was AJ in the championship rounds? he came out very strong in that 11th round. He really did. He, for me, looked pretty poor rounds 6 to 9. Pretty poor in those rounds. He took time off, and for me, I know the judges disagree, but gave up large portions of those rounds to Wladimir Klitschko. But in fairness to him, he got his second wind. You know, he took time off. A lot of this fight, you know, AJ came out hard for the first minute of the round and then didn't fight for the last 2 minutes. But in that last round, the 11th round, he really got his second win. Simon says, Gossip, your channel is the best on YouTube. Very, very much appreciated, Simon. Very kind of you to say so. Sorry, there's too much chat. I apologise in advance if I miss you on the chat, guys. John Davis says, subscribe to BG, folks. Guy know his stuff. Great channel. Appreciate it, John. Very charitable, mate. Red Diesel wants to hear my thoughts on Joshua's corner. Yeah, Rob McCracken's got a lot of chat for good corner work. There were times in this fight I wasn't 100% convinced myself, I must be honest. He kept advising Joshua to jab, and I thought whenever AJ was standing at range and jabbing with Klitschko and trying to trade punches from the outside, straight punches, he was getting found out a bit. For me, he was more effective on the inside. He also kept saying, you know, Vlad's 41, etc. I wasn't 100% sure it was the right advice, you know, because he was kind of geeing Joshua up to go out hard at the start of rounds. And we saw a constant pattern of Joshua going out hard for the first 30 seconds and then not being able to fight for 3 minutes of the round. So McCracken's got a huge amount of credit off the back of this fight. I wasn't so sure I overly rated his performance in the corner, but perhaps I'm being harsh. Gary says, who would win the rematch, BG? I'd make sure a substantial favourite off the back of tonight. You know, Vlad's Father Time will catch up with Vlad eventually, and you kind of feel that Vlad's best chance to beat Anthony Joshua was in that 6th round. Andy C says, subscribe, everyone. Andrew says, if you like boxing, press subscribe. Cheers, Andy and Andrew. Very kind of you guys to say. Andy C, I've already just mentioned that on a rematch. Paul says, would AJ's style suit Hay? Well, again, David Hay's another guy who's completely gone at the minute, isn't he? You know, Joshua to blow him out in 2 or 3 rounds based on his last fight. Jared, after those 3 to 4 rounds that were terrible for him, do you think Joshua adapted well, which was the cause of the stoppage? I really do, Jared. You know, the only thing I'd say is he came out swinging wildly in that 11th round. And he connected with Vlad, and he was really able to steamroll Vlad in that 11th round. History will forget it because, you know, knockouts cause amnesia is the way I said. But in that 11th round, it reminded me of how strong he came out in the 5th round, you know, where he hurt Vlad, knocked Vlad down, and then ended up massively gassing in that round for me. And I think it's the same in the 11th round. He was lucky that he got on top and was able to dominate and steamroll Wladimir in that round personally, because, you know, I do believe that there was a high risk that if Wladimir had been able to evade punches and, you know, slip a few more shots, Joshua could have gassed again in that 11th round. You know, I thought he was badly down on the cards, and presumably his corner thought he was badly down on the cards. If they'd known how far ahead, you know, he was, then perhaps, you know, perhaps he'd have just stood off and boxed. But yeah, it looked like he threw caution to the wind, and the risk for me was that he was starting rounds very, very strongly and then fading out of them. Let's have a look what else is going on in the chat. Apologies massively if I've missed your comments in the chat, guys. There's so many people. We're up to 333 watching live, which is the most we've ever had on a live stream. David says, do you think Joshua approaches rounds the wrong way round, coming out fast and fading rather than taking stock and exploding in the last 45 seconds? Risk. I think that's what happened in the 5th round. I think to an extent that's what happened in the Dillian White fight. And I think the 2 most vulnerable times that Joshua's looked is when he's come out very, very hard, when he's put punches together very well, hurt his opponent, and then left himself very open. So yeah, I think that's a very fair comment, David. Hem says, who would you favour in a fight with Joshua and Fury? As I say, that kind of depends on if Tyson Fury is still Tyson Fury. Craig says, apology accepted, BG. Not 100% sure what you're referring to there, Craig, but there we go. VK Dean says, BG, that's AJ's strength. His stopping power is ridiculous. When he has you hurt, his variety is scary. He can gas, but it's also survive, and that's why he's exciting. Which is why he's exciting, but in many ways, it was a flawed performance, especially in that 5th round. He was well on top in that 5th round. He had Wladimir all over the shop, and he wasn't very clinical there. He was wild, he was wide, and he let Wladimir back into the fight, really, which is what I'm getting at. Ray Zavrus says, I'm from New Zealand. Why was everyone booing Eddie? Eddie Hearn's not the most popular figure over here. He's viewed as a bit of a cringy salesperson. People don't like the fact that he's viewed as the king of pay-per-view. So there you go. Eddie Hearn, not always the most popular guy. Good stuff. Jared says, thanks, BG. Best channel on YouTube without a doubt. Urge you all to subscribe and click the like button. Tom is a nice chap. Thank you very much, Jared. You're making me blush, mate. Good stuff. Let's have another look in the chat. Good stuff. Right, guys. So, yeah, just some sort of very, very brief thoughts there. But the rematch option is very, very interesting. I didn't realise that was on the cards, and we're going to have to see what comes up. Andrew says it was the same problem in the 5th against Klitschko. It was in the 2nd round against White. I agree. I agree. It was very reminiscent for me. Very, very reminiscent. Indeed. So there you go. Anyway, guys, I need to get some sleep, I'm afraid. Been a very, very long night. Appreciate all of you guys taking the time to tune in and join this live stream. Hopefully I got to some of your comments. I know I only got to a small percentage of them, but yeah, hopefully we read out enough that I didn't offend anyone. 316 of you watching live. Thanks very much for everyone who joined. Final shout to please click the thumbs up button. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you have just jumped on, do take the chance to look at my post-fight video, which went up on the channel about an hour ago. Hoping that may well turn out to be the most viewed video that we ever do, or that we've done so far on the channel. So give that one a look. Many thanks indeed for tuning into this one, and yeah, thanks as always for supporting the channel, guys. I hope to catch up with you all soon, and podcast will be back this Wednesday at 8:30 as always. Cheers, guys. Good evening.